Hello and welcome to the Through the Pain podcast. This is a place for chronic pain and chronic illness warriors to dare, dance, and dream through the pain. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Through the Pain podcast. This is where we dare, dance, and dream through the pain. And today, I have a guest with me on this podcast. He is my friend, my caregiver, and he's my husband. I'd like to welcome Michael Hendricks.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Cool.
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me. I've been wanting to have this conversation for quite some time, but
It's going to be like red table talk.
We can have a red table talk moment.
All in depth and everything.
We can get all in depth.
Okay, let's do this.
Let's be transparent. Let's share with the people what actually happens with us when you have to pretty much take care of me. All right. But here's the thing. I'm a wife that doesn't really like being quote unquote taken care of.
No.
Absolutely not. So I find myself to be a very independent individual. I want to depend primarily on, my God the Father, and I want to have a husband and have a family, but I want to be the one that is the traditional caretaker, so to speak. So, you know how I feel about that. I feel kind of, I don't feel like the traditional wife. I feel like I'm taking from you. Okay. So what is your thought on that before we even dive in deeper?
All right. I think, especially in knowing ahead of time while we were dating that you had sickle cell. And by the way, I knew nothing about sickle cell.
Right.
When I met you. I didn't know what sickle cell was. I didn't know it was even a thing. It existed. Like, I think someone in my church their daughter had it, but I just was so aloof at that time. I just knew that she wasn't feeling well. So I didn't know nothing about sickle cell. So during that whole period, I had to learn about during our courtship, learn what sickle cell was, and then really had to make a conscious decision if I was able, and when I say able, have the mental makeup to be like, okay, this is the worst thing that could happen. If this happens, are you still cool with it? So in my mind, I had to run by all those different types of scenarios. What if she needed a hip replacement? What if she ends up being blind? What if she has a major clot and something happens? Are you able to? Would you still be able to manage those things? Would you still be able to hold down those things? And of course, you're not really thinking about those things long term, but you have to take a look and see, do you have the mental makeup for that?
Right.
And sometimes it's good to know ahead of time if you do. And sometimes if you don't, it feels like you'd rather say no then than say no 5 years into it and knowing that I can't do it, or I don't feel like I'm able or capable of doing it. So I think that was my main thing, was just really figuring out, do I have the mental capacity, the mental makeup to do that ahead of time. And again, I was afforded the liberty to have that conversation with myself and with trusted people to see if I was able to do that ahead of time. Some people don't have that. Some people end up either, finding out they have lupus or Crohn's disease within the marriage, and now they're dealing and coping with that while they're going through the marriage.
Right.
And now that's a whole nother kettle of fish that they have to figure out how to ask God to help them with that mental makeup if they didn't have that before. But just knowing that going into the marriage, it really gave me peace of mind, knowing that and a lot of my mental makeup came from my faith.
Okay.
Knowing that God was going to provide all of our needs, and I didn't have to worry about tomorrow, because God was going to provide for today. So when it came to finances, when it came to making sure the bills are paid, rent, kids are being fed, I had to trust really in God's word. So my faith, plus understanding the situation, doing my homework ahead of marriage, really was helpful.
Okay, so you kind of dived deep.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
but you didn't answer the question.
Okay. Okay.
I think the question really was about the mental capacity of being in. How do you feel pretty much about my feeling about coming into this marriage and being the one that feels that wants to be the wife, wants to be Susie Homemaker, but can't. What do you say to that piece?
I try to. I feel like I would encourage you to do what you can do, but also know it's okay when you can't do it.
Right.
So if you feel like cooking, go for it. But if you don't feel like cooking, it's okay. And hopefully that you never feel like you feel less than a spouse or a mother or a provider, because there might be moments in your life when you aren't able to do those type of things. But knowing that I am the helpmate, to be there for you.
So I asked that question really, that was a very loaded question in the beginning, because I really want to highlight to our listeners that it's okay that they're sick.
Yeah.
And it's okay that they're going through what they're going through, and their body is, although their body is failing them, they're still capable of having a meaningful and a long-lasting relationship. So I think that's really the core of what I'm getting at. But you mentioned quite a few things in your previous answer that I want to get to. You talked about the lack of awareness that you had in terms of sickle cell. And the thing is, unfortunately, guys, we're just talking about sickle cell because I have it. We're talking about, our chronic illness journey. But this kind of pertains to everyone. But again, sickle cell is quote unquote a rare disease, but over 100,000 people in America suffer from the disease, and that's a big number.
Yes.
And it affects people in the millions worldwide.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand how you didn't really learn about it and until we were dating. I'm trying to kind of grasp, because it's considered, even though it's a rare disease, it's common. So in including myself, who are the people that taught you about the disease?
You.
It was just me?
Pretty much you.
Okay.
I really didn't have any exposure to that outside of meeting you.
Okay.
So, your real was my first dose of educating myself about it, and then taking time to learn about it independently via, videos or books and stuff like that.
Okay. So you dived right into the belly of the beast.
Yeah. It was just like, I maybe it was because of my subculture. I was a MECO student, and those who are outside of Boston or Massachusetts, I was shipped out from the inner city into the suburbs, from K through 12. Okay. And so most of my educational upbringing was in a suburban culture. Yeah. And, we barely had a decent Black History Month, let alone talk about issues that dealt with Black culture in itself. So And then moving on to a Christian college, and then, but even while I was in Boston, those issues of that those challenges that are happening in our community were never really brought up.
Okay.
Where I was from, maybe it was again my subcultures where it came from school or church, it never really was talked about. But when I met you, my eyes were opened.
Okay.
I was enlightened. I saw the light.
Oh my goodness. You talked about also your faith and how that helped you. But I'm going to say, as your wife, there were times you were stressed out and you were aggravated. And I want you to be real and be transparent and talk about those times.
Yeah, there was times when, we'll go back to when we were dating, there's times I didn't know what my makeup was. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, just to be really transparent, I didn't do a lot of dating before. So, you really was like one of the really first people that I steadily dated more than like 2 or 3 times. So I had to figure out what my mental makeup was, because it was you with this, you dealing with sickle cell, and then on top of that, you were a single mother. And on top of that, you had, you were dealing with issues with your child's father. So it was a lot of subcultures that I had to really feel like that I have a mental makeup to deal with those type of things. Okay. So it was multiple things that I just had to figure out. Sometimes I felt in the moment I would probably be the worst candidate, and you probably need someone stronger. And there's other things where I had to just trust God and develop the strength that I really felt I had within me. So there was times where I was just like, I don't think I can, not I can handle your issues. I just feel like I was not strong enough to handle the issues that you needed help in. Okay. So sometimes it comes off like, oh, you take you and your baggage and go someplace else. Right. And I know sometimes it comes off that way.
Because that's how I felt.
Yeah. But sometimes it's like, I don't know if I'm strong enough to be the anchor or the strength that you need when you need it the most. Okay. And I don't want to be in a position where I'm going to let you down when you really need somebody to have your back.
I want to highlight what you just said, because people are... I got a lot of sad stories where boyfriends or girlfriends or loved ones are leaving sickle cell patients in the emergency room. And I had one girl said that this guy was very angry that she had to go to the hospital again, dropped her off and wouldn't pick her up or wouldn't even visit her, and has, quote unquote, had enough of her, expletive. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that in your weakness, it was because you thought you weren't strong enough to be there for me. Right. Okay. That I can understand. And I just kind of want to encourage listeners out there that may be fear. If your significant other is doing things that are not characteristic during a heightened sickle cell crisis, they're acting out of fear. But I'm going to take a pause for the cause right now. We're going to, come back. I have more deep questions, and we're going to get, really, we're going to push the envelope a little bit.
Pushing it more?
We're going to push it a little bit.
Oh, sweet Lord, how many? Okay.
We're going to push a little bit, and we'll be right back for more Through the Pain. If you leave a 5-star review and I happen to read it on air, you'll be eligible to receive deep discounts on our Through the Pain merchandise. We'll be back after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Through the Pain podcast. I'm here with the one and only Big Ruckus, my hubby. Hey. So I wanted to talk about the experience of the hospital experience, basically, of how you deal with it. Because I know for me, sometimes it can be an absolute nightmare and I don't want to go. But when I have to, what are your thoughts from beginning to end?
I think the first time I seen you in the hospital, I think we were still dating. I was like in pieces. I was like, "Oh my God, are you gonna be okay?" Now I'm crying, like all teary eyed, like someone was chopping onions, and then you were like, "It's gonna be okay."
Mm.
And then it's like really the moment you said that, it's like, okay, she's the one that's been through this since almost infancy.
Right.
And she's telling
But
me
pause, hold on. This particular crisis though, when I was like, oh, dude, I'm good, it's gonna be okay. It was like a regular schmegular pain episode. I knew what I needed. I knew it was gonna be okay.
Okay.
But there's times when I don't. I fall to pieces, and I need you.
And there's times you fall to pieces and you pretend like everything's okay.
Okay.
And I don't know. And then I have to be like the mentalist and be like, oh, okay, yeah, she's faking it. Yeah, she really needs some help. Or she really,
Wait, time out. Okay, all right. You raised something that you. Okay, I'm faking. Mm-hmm. I've heard that a lot. I've heard that I'm faking a lot.
Not faking as in you're faking your pain, but you're faking the level of how bad it's hurting you.
Yeah. Okay. So
you're downplaying it pretty much.
All right. I've heard as a little girl that I used to fake all the that I faked or I was used to fake or something, and that was never the case.
Right.
But it was not to downplay, but to get attention.
Right.
And now that I'm hearing you say this, it's kind of a new paradigm for me. When you say, "Oh, you would," so when I talk to you and you say, "Oh, you're faking it," I kind of feel some type of way. Like, wait, no,
that was a trigger.
Like it used to be a trigger. It used to set me off as like, I really want to argue with you right now because I want to slap the crap out of you right now because I'm not faking.
Right.
But you would say no. You're trying to play me, or you being an actress. And
like there was a day you had rigors, like you were shaking and you were still trying to go to work. I'm like, no.
Oh.
Like I'm fine. It's just I got the chills. I'm like, no, you're literally shaking. Your body is like bouncing up and down like a Mexican jumping bean.
And I had a fever and I had a blood infection.
Yeah.
And I was saying that I was okay.
Yeah.
And I was in so much pain.
So there's multiple times when you're, where you're like, I think I'm okay. And again, it could be because of the fact that you're tired of going to the hospital or you just want to do it. Maybe you had an assignment because you're going to school. Maybe you just started a new job. So there's a lot of different elements in which you felt like, I can handle it. I can do it. It's not that big of a deal. Let me just go through this day. Let me just finish this day. Mm-hmm. But knowing your body, man, my body really needs to go. Right. So sometimes you will cover that up. And as your husband, I have to really toe that balance of like, okay, she knows her body. She knows what her threshold of pain is, what is tolerable, what's not tolerable, and I gotta let her make that decision. If it's really bad and I have to, my antenna has to go up, I have to kind of put my husband card down and be like, no, you're staying home, or no, you need to go to the hospital. But I try not to use that card that often because you know your body, you know your pain threshold. There's a lot of things you can do, and I mean, you just being an amazing woman yourself.
Oh.
You can juggle 5 things where I can only juggle maybe like 1 or 2. Okay. So I can't put you in my box and be like, you're doing too much. Women probably there's some women that just do amazingly 5 different things and juggle it and not lose a beat.
Right.
And I can't put you in that box. And I don't want to be every time you're in pain to be like, you need to go to the hospital, what's wrong. Right. You know your pain, you know your threshold, you know what you're able and capable of doing while you're in pain. And I have to allow you to do that. Mm-hmm.
So one thing I did notice in the hospital is that when you're there, I feel comfortable. And that comfort level goes up because the doctors who usually say something disrespectful and come out of pocket with me, call me a drug seeker, or try to discharge me when my blood levels are like way below normal. They don't do that in your presence.
Right.
And I don't know what it is, y'all, women who are who have a chronic illness. Make sure your husband's with you during these appointments, because I feel like these doctors come for me as soon as you walk out the door. And then sometimes I can't get FaceTime fast enough for them to say, for them to bring the same energy. There was one time I had to FaceTime you and you were not picking up. And when you finally picked up, I said to the doctor, what did you say? Bring that same energy that you was bringing to me before. And he was nice. Mm-hmm. He changed his whole tone. And I was so frustrated because, you weren't able to protect, you weren't able to protect me from that. I just, how do you feel when someone, because I'm your wife, how do you feel when someone challenges me or disrespects me about my own health care?
I mean, it's like if anytime anybody comes for you or guns for you or try to make you feel like you're less than like a second class citizen, you're gonna be upset. You're gonna be, first of all, worried, concerned that you're getting the right care, that you're being heard, that they understand how you feel. And, and sometimes, like, you have a team of people, you have your doctors that really understand you, but sometimes they're far and in between. Sometimes they're dealing with another 30, 40 clients. But then the doctors that are there, especially the ones that might be like this ER that's fresh off the boat, because we're in Boston, there's always someone that's just graduating. They think that they're like, the ish.
No, I'm finding the graduates and the med students and the residents, and I wouldn't say the residents, the med students, and the ones that are taking like their practicum, they're so eager to learn that they're moldable, they're teachable. Right. They understand that I'm a human being. But I think it's the individuals that are older and quote unquote more seasoned and think that, I've been a doctor for 30 years, therefore I have arrived and I know everything. I have more issue with those fools.
Right.
And they're the ones that come from my neck and while I'm in the hospital. And it's very, man, my anger level, I turn into She-Hulk sometimes because I know my body. I know what's going on. You recognize that I know my body. And I think the issue for me is not wanting to go to the hospital is that I know a doctor's going to come for me. I know a nurse is going to say something so insensitive, disrespectful, or have some type of just so much discrimination all around, period. I think I know that's my issue. But I don't think you see it though. Because nobody does it around, in the hospital setting, they don't do it around you or you don't catch it. Because there have been times though, because I think guys are oblivious, period. There have been times where someone might have an underhanded comment, and as a female of color, I can catch what somebody's reading me. For those of you who don't know what a read is, please watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. But I can feel when someone is trying to come for me, but trying to be professional in their delivery, but it comes off very disrespectful. But to any old guy or to anybody, it's like, oh, they were being professional. Yeah, it's okay. And I feel like I had those Kevin Hart moments where I'm like, help me. And I'm having my arm out, and you're like, oh, she wasn't inappropriate. There's a lot of times we've had those exchanges.
Okay.
There's a lot of times where, you know, they're either the doctors that are not bold enough to say stuff in your face, and then there's the nurses that give the undercover shade, and then there's, you know, there's so many things, different nuances that men aren't catching. Yeah, so I'm just saying right now, and my full disclosure, my full transparency is, I'm asking you if you could be a little bit more aware of what's going on during those times.
Okay. That's the only thing I can do is just try to do better. I just, you know, or try to be more attentive, but, you know.
All right, hubby, I want to thank you for coming to the Through the Pain podcast. And again, you will be available to answer questions, and we can come on for another podcast to answer questions, especially for couples who deal with chronic illness. So thank you again. Yay. Please feel free to email your questions at contact@throughthepain.org. Again, the email is contact@throughthepain.org. Before we go, is there any comments or anything that you would like to share with our listeners?
I mean, I definitely would say in the last, 11, 12 years of marriage, there's been a lot of learning about just being a supportive husband, a supportive person, especially for people that deal with chronic disease. They need help, they need support, and they need to be understood. So make sure that your mind is always open to learn, your heart is always open to give love, to receive love, and always have hands out there to serve if they ever need a helping hand. And I know many of you guys that are caretakers already do that, but always try to see, what else can you do to make sure these people feel loved, feel heard, and their needs are being met. So continually ask whoever you need to ask. It could be God the Father, it could be other people, it could be men or women of wisdom that can help you out in that type of situation, but always try to be that person that can be their strength and be there, and when they're feeling unable, that you are able. And I know that you are able.
Well, thank you. And you know what? I have something to add as well. I think people who are suffering from chronic illness and they do have a spouse and they do have a special caretaker, whether it be husband, wife, grandmother, anybody that's connected to you and you have a caregiver, you need to appreciate them a little bit more. Hug them a little bit tighter. Love them a little bit longer.
The Big Red commercial?
The Big Red commercial.
Just
longer.
Buy a pack of Big Red. They'll get the picture.
Keep loving on them. Keep and appreciate them a little bit more. For tools, merchandise, and additional information, log on to our website, www.throughthepain.org. This has been a Public Praise Media production.